I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. Lisa and I had been married for about 8 years now. We met in college, hit it off right away, and for a long time I thought we had a pretty good thing going. She was sharp, beautiful, and we had a son, Tyler, who's now 9. I always believed we were solid, even if we had our typical disagreements here and there. But lately, things felt off. She was cold, dismissive, and there were these little things I kept noticing but chose to ignore, like her always having to run errands when I'd ask her to do something, or her suddenly acting secretive about her phone. The first real sign was about 2 months ago. I came home early from work once, and I caught her sneaking out of the house in a hurry. She said she'd forgotten her wallet at her sister's place, which sounded innocent enough. But the way she bolted out like her pants were on fire made me suspicious. I started paying closer attention. She'd suddenly be vague about her whereabouts, cancel plans, or get defensive when I asked questions. She also started spending more time at the gym, claiming she was just working out, but I noticed she was always dressed in tight, revealing clothes, and she'd come home with her hair different, more styled, more done up. Then, about a month ago, I noticed her phone kept going off at odd hours, texts from some guy named Chris, which I didn't recognize. I tried to ignore it, but her reaction was bizarre. She deleted the messages right in front of me, insisting I was paranoid and jealous. That didn't sit right, but I let it go because I wanted to believe she was just fibbing or hiding something minor. But my gut told me otherwise. I started snooping, going through her stuff when she was out of the house, and I found receipts for hotel stays and receipts for lingerie she bought on dates I didn't even know about. Then, last Friday, I decided to follow her after she said she was going out with her friend from work, a girl named Megan. I had this nagging suspicion and just wanted to see where she was really going. I followed her to the school, yeah, the school where Tyler goes, and I freaked out when I saw her sneaking into the coach's office with her bag. It was almost midnight and I could see her going inside. I parked a few streets over, waiting, trying to process what I was seeing. Minutes later, I saw her come out, fumbling with her phone, her face flushed. When she got in her car, I followed from a distance, and what I saw made my stomach drop. She pulled into a secluded parking lot behind the school. I got out of my car and crept closer. Through the open window of the coach's car, I saw her, Lisa, completely engrossed with Coach Mark, who's about 10 years younger than me and a guy I used to trust. They were doing more than just strategizing football plays. I could see their hands all over each other and her lips pressed against his neck. I couldn't believe it. I stood there, frozen, watching as they disappeared into the coach's office together. My mind was racing. That's when I knew this was the real deal. My wife was cheating on me with our son's football coach, right in the school where everyone thought she was just helping out with some after-school volunteer thing. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All those little signs, all those moments I brushed off as paranoia or overthinking, they were all true. She'd been lying to my face, sneaking around, lying about her friendships and workouts. And the worst part, she lied so convincingly, even when I caught her red-handed. The betrayal hit me like a freight train, and I realized I was now standing at a crossroads. I could do nothing and pretend I didn't see it, or I could confront her. But I knew I couldn't keep this bottled up. I had to face her. I just didn't know how I was going to handle what was coming next. The moment I saw her come out of that parking lot with Mark, I felt everything inside me shift. It was like the ground beneath my feet was crumbling, and I had no choice but to face what was right in front of me. I didn't follow her home right away. I needed a second to breathe, to think. My mind was racing, trying to process how my wife, my partner, the woman I trusted, could do something so heinous in broad daylight, right under the nose of everyone who ever thought she was just a good, involved mother and wife. I waited a few hours trying to calm down, but it was impossible. My stomach was twisted and I kept replaying that scene in my head over and over. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I couldn't do it without a plan. I had to be smart. I needed evidence. The last thing I wanted was to accuse her without proof, so I started digging deeper. I went through her phone when she was sleeping, found more texts from Mark, some explicit, others just flirtatious. There were even pictures, those selfies she takes but with captions like "Can't wait to see you tonight" and "Our secret." I also took screenshots, saved everything, and started building my case. I knew she'd deny it at first, call me paranoid or jealous, but I wasn't about to let her manipulate me. That's when I found out about the hotel receipts. She'd gone away for business trips that I now knew were cover stories. I even started looking into Mark's schedule, found out he was always away, busy on weekends or working late. All the signs pointed to one thing, but I needed her to admit it. I needed her to slip up. The next day, I decided it was time. I told her I wanted to talk about something serious, that I'd been noticing things, and I wasn't happy with the way she'd been acting. She got defensive right away, fake tears, saying I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of something she didn't do. That's when I saw her lie without hesitation, her tone dripping with disdain as she told me she only ever cared about me, that she'd never cheat, and that I was just jealous because I couldn't handle her success in her career and her life. She snapped at me, called me controlling, insecure. That's typical Lisa: blame shift, deny, act like I'm the problem. But I wasn't buying her act anymore. I knew the truth. I felt a mixture of anger, heartbreak, and disgust. I wanted to lash out, to scream, to break something, but I kept my cool. I told her I knew everything, that I had proof, and that I was done pretending. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she thought she was untouchable. She said I was overreacting, that it was all just a misunderstanding, that Mark was just helping her with Tyler's football, that I was reading into things too much. She told me I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was insecure. She kept lying, lying, lying. The emotional fallout hit me hard. I felt humiliated and betrayed, but there was also a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I felt like I'd been blind for so long, thinking I was doing right by my wife and family, but now I saw her for who she truly was: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been screwing around behind my back. I was furious at her, yes, but I was also devastated. How could someone I loved so much do this to me? To Tyler, to us? That night I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. I didn't want to stay in this marriage anymore, but I didn't want to make rash decisions either. I knew I needed to think carefully about what to do next. I still loved her, part of me did, that's the sick part, but I also knew I deserved better than this. I deserved honesty, respect, loyalty. I didn't want to be a fool anymore, and I sure as hell didn't want my kid growing up thinking this sort of betrayal was okay. I promised myself I'd handle this, no matter how hard it got. I had to plan my next move, and I had to be ready for whatever she threw at me. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy feeling in my chest, the kind that doesn't go away easily. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what I was going to do. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without a plan. She was manipulative, and I wasn't about to let her gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. I had the evidence, and now I needed to decide how to handle this situation without blowing everything up immediately. I got up early, made myself a coffee, and sat in the living room, going through the screenshots and receipts I had saved all night. My mind was racing, trying to find the best way to approach her. Should I just come out swinging, or should I play it cool and trap her in her lies? I decided to wait for the right moment. I wanted her to slip up, to say something that would make my case even more solid. In the meantime, I decided to talk to a lawyer, just to get a sense of what my options were, what I could do legally if I decided to separate or divorce. While I was on the phone with the lawyer, Lisa was acting all normal, like nothing had happened. She was in the kitchen, pretending to be busy with dishes, humming some stupid song with that fake smile on her face. It made me want to scream. She was so good at pretending everything was fine, even when she was clearly lying through her teeth. I kept calm, played it cool, but inside I was boiling. I knew she was planning her next move, maybe trying to act innocent to keep me from pushing forward. The worst part was how she kept trying to manipulate me with her words. She'd come into the room, give me those little smirks, and say stuff like, "You're overreacting, babe," or "You're just jealous because I have a life outside of you." She even had the nerve to accuse me of not trusting her like I was the one in the wrong. I'd been with her long enough to know that's her typical pattern: deny, lie, deflect. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth, and I was going to hold her accountable for it. That day, I decided I'd confront her again, but this time with a little more strategy. I wanted her to slip, to admit something on her own, so I wouldn't seem like I was just accusing her out of nowhere. I left my phone recording, hidden behind a book on the sofa, just in case. I played the part of the normal husband, but I kept my eyes peeled for any sign of guilt or nervousness. I made sure not to tip her off, but I was ready for whatever she threw at me. Later that afternoon, she came into the living room, acting overly affectionate, like she was trying to smooth things over. She was trying to make me feel guilty, like I was the one who was crazy or paranoid. She sat next to me, stroked my arm and whispered, "I love you, with that fake, bitchy little smile." I looked straight at her and I saw right through her act. I knew she was trying to manipulate me into dropping it, into pretending everything was okay. But I wasn't about to fall for her bullshit anymore. I decided I'd confront her directly that evening. No more hiding, no more sneaking around. I was going to tell her I knew what she'd been doing, show her the evidence, and see how she'd spin her lies then. I was pissed, hurt, and disgusted, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I was finally going to get this out in the open, and I knew from that moment nothing would ever be the same again. My life was about to change, whether I liked it or not. All I could do was prepare myself for the storm that was coming. That evening, I told her I needed to talk, serious talk. She looked at me with that fake, innocent expression, like she hadn't a care in the world. I could see the flicker of anxiety behind those bitchy eyes, but she masked it quickly with her smug smirk. I decided to lay everything out on the table, showed her the screenshots, the receipts, the photos, everything I had collected over the last couple of days. I didn't hold back. I pointed at her and told her I knew she'd been cheating with Mark, that I'd seen them together, that I had proof she'd been lying for months. Her reaction was priceless. She froze for a second, then started with her usual gaslighting routine. "You're crazy," she snapped, voice rising. "You're just jealous because I've been working so hard and you don't appreciate me. Mark's just a friend, you're overreacting as usual." She tried to dismiss everything like she was the victim here, but I saw through it. Her eyes flickered with guilt, and I knew she was panicking. She shifted gears fast, trying to spin her lies, saying I was imagining things, that I was just insecure and jealous. She called me controlling, said I never trusted her, that I was ruining our family. I didn't bother arguing much. I kept my cool, just looked at her and told her I'd had enough of her lies. I told her I was done pretending, that I deserved better than her cheating behind my back. Her face flushed with rage, then she started crying fake tears. She's good at that too, claiming I was ruining everything, that I was destroying our marriage over a stupid misunderstanding. But I wasn't buying her tears anymore. I told her I knew her game, that I had enough evidence to take to the lawyer and end this. She tried to deny everything, but her voice cracked, her composure slipping. She kept lying, insisting she'd never do something like that, that Mark was just coaching Tyler, that it was all innocent. But I had seen what I saw. No way I was going to fall for her bullshit. I told her I was done, that I was leaving her and she could screw around or lie all she wanted, but I wasn't going to stay in this nightmare anymore. The thing is, she didn't just lie, she got nasty. Her tone turned bitchy, her attitude defensive and angry. "You think you're so perfect, don't you?" she spat. "You're just jealous because I've got a life and you're too insecure to handle it. You're not the man you think you are." That was her way of trying to turn it around, make me the bad guy, but I wasn't falling for it. I felt a deep, crushing disappointment, and I realized how much I'd been blinded by her charm for so long. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just a fling. She'd been screwing around with Mark for a while. And honestly, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. As she kept yelling, I felt my anger boil over. I told her I was done with her lies, that I wasn't going to stay in a marriage where I was constantly being betrayed. I said I'd talk to a lawyer first thing in the morning, and that I was going to protect myself and Tyler. I saw her struggling for control, her face twisting with frustration and hate. That's when I finally decided I was done. Her game, her lies, her manipulations, they were over. From that moment, I knew I'd do whatever it took to get out of this disaster she'd created. I never thought I'd be in this position, but now I was ready to fight for my dignity, for my son, and for my own sanity. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I met with a lawyer, laid out everything I had on her, texts, receipts, the recordings I managed to sneak when she wasn't paying attention. It was brutal, but I needed to be thorough. The lawyer confirmed what I already knew. I had grounds for divorce and I could pursue custody of Tyler. Honestly, I didn't care about her anymore. I just wanted out of this mess and to protect my kid from her chaos. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude didn't soften. It only got bitchier. She doubled down on the lies, trying to gaslight me into thinking I was overreacting. She threw tantrums, screamed, even accused me of being controlling for wanting to see her phone or check her emails. Yeah, she played the victim card hard, insisting I was the one who was crazy and insecure. She called me pathetic, said I was ruining our family over a stupid suspicion. I guess she thought she could manipulate me into backing down, but I was done with her bullshit. One evening, she got even more aggressive when I told her I was going to proceed with the divorce. She started crying fake tears again, calling me a terrible husband, a terrible father. Then suddenly she threw in this bizarre claim, said she'd only cheated because I was never there for her, that I was emotionally distant, that I didn't care about her or Tyler anymore. I was stunned. That was her typical tactic, twist everything around, make herself look like the victim, even though I knew she was the one screwing around in the school parking lot, behind my back. I remember feeling this mix of disgust and sadness. I'd loved her once, believed in us, but now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish woman who'd lie and cheat without remorse. My heart ached for Tyler, who was too young to understand what was going on but was already picking up on the tension. I promised myself I'd do everything to shield him from her drama, even if it meant making some hard choices. I had to stay strong, not just for me, but for my son. As the week went on, I moved out of the house. Not because I wanted to, but because I knew staying there would just give her more ammunition to manipulate me or make my life hell. I rented a small apartment nearby, close enough to keep an eye on Tyler and be involved in his life. It wasn't what I wanted, being apart from my family, but I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I felt numb most days, haunted by the betrayal but also relieved that I finally uncovered the truth. I won't lie, what she did cut deep. There's this strange mixture of anger, sadness, and even a little guilt. I keep questioning myself, was I a bad husband? Did I miss signs? But deep down, I know I wasn't the problem. She made her choices, and I just happened to find out too late. It's hard to accept, but I realize I have to move forward for myself and Tyler. I've learned that the people you trust most can betray you in ways you never saw coming, and sometimes you have to cut your losses and rebuild. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I want a better life. One where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder for the next lie. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole experience has changed me, probably forever. The betrayal ripped through me like a storm, but over time I've started to rebuild what was shattered. I don't pretend that it's easy. Some days are worse than others. There are nights I lie awake, thinking about what I could have done differently, questioning whether I was blind or just too trusting. But I also remind myself that I did everything I could, and sometimes people just choose to be selfish and hurt others. Divorcing Lisa was the hardest decision I've ever made, but it was also the right one. I don't hate her. I just see her for what she is now, and honestly, I don't want her in my life anymore. It's sad that it ended like this, especially with Tyler involved, but I refuse to let their actions define me. I've learned a lot about trust, deception, and the importance of listening to your instincts. I've also come to understand that no matter how much you try to hold on to something, if it's rotten underneath, it's better to cut it out and start fresh. I've become more cautious, more aware of the red flags I ignored before. I now prioritize honesty and loyalty above all else, and I teach my son the same. Tyler's young, but I want him to grow up understanding what a real relationship should look like, built on respect, trust, and communication. I tell him every day that no matter what happens, he's loved and valued, and that he should never settle for someone who makes him doubt himself. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm dating again, slowly, cautiously, but I've learned not to rush. I've also started focusing on myself, getting healthier, finding hobbies I enjoy, and reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. The pain isn't gone entirely, but it's less sharp, more manageable. I know I'll never forget what happened, but I've accepted it as part of my story now. It's made me stronger, more aware, and maybe even more cautious about who I trust next. This whole ordeal taught me that sometimes the worst betrayals come from the people you least expect, and the only way to truly heal is to face the truth head on. You have to be honest with yourself and accept that not everyone is deserving of your trust. Moving forward, I'm determined not to let this define me. I'll be better, wiser, and more careful. And when I look at Tyler now, I hope he learns from all this too. I want him to grow up knowing that real love is based on honesty, not lies, and that even in betrayal, you can find a way to rebuild and come out stronger.